Hi math students, this video is to help you with your upcoming checkpoint 6.7. So you can either print this page out and fill it in as we go, or you can use your own paper to fill it out, or you can do it electronically. It's up to you. But make sure you do these problems because these are just like the ones that you're going to see on your checkpoint. Okay, so number one, what is 50 over 85 in lowest terms? So we've been working on reducing fractions. So I'm just going to write this a little bit bigger right here. So we have to think of something that goes into 50 and 85. And if you're still struggling with that, you can think about making a factor tree and then figuring out what goes into both of those. This one's not too bad because you can tell 5 goes into both of them. So I'm going to start by dividing the top and bottom by 5. So 50 divided by 5 is 10. 85 divided by 5. I don't actually know that off the top of my head, so I would have to do that division. You're also welcome to use a calculator to do that division. Oops. So that is 17. So now I have 10 over 17, and hopefully you remember from our lessons on prime numbers that 17 is prime. So we're done there. We can't reduce that any further. So 10 over 17 would be our reduced fraction in lowest terms. So number 2, Crystal wants to add the fractions 5/15 and 1/6. Find the lowest common denominator of these two fractions. So we need to find that LCM, the least common multiple of 15 and 6. So we had lots of different methods on how to do this in the previous lessons. I'm just going to start making a list of multiples of 15 and then of 6 and see if we can find one there. So 15 times 2 would be 30. 15 times 3 would be 45. Then 60, and then 75. I'm just going to stop there for a minute and see if that's enough. So multiples of 6. I have 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5 is 30. So I can see right there that I have a 30 in both lists. So that's the least common multiple. That's going to be our lowest common denominator. So this answer would be 30. Number 3, find the sum in simplest form. So this says 2/6 plus 3/8. So we learned in these lessons that when we want to add fractions, we have to have a common denominator. That's why this number 2 question was showing us how to find a common denominator. So we'll need to find a common denominator for these two fractions. So what I like to do is set up 2 new fractions like this with a plus sign in between. And now I need to figure out what my denominator is going to be. So you can go ahead and make your lists of the least common denominators for these. So 6, then 12, then 18, then 24. For 8, I have 8, then 16, then 24. So I can tell right there that 24 is going to be my least common denominator. So because I changed from 6 to 24, I multiplied 6 times 4 to get to 24. So since I multiplied the denominator by 4, I have to multiply the numerator by 4 also. So this first fraction becomes 8/24. So 2/6 is the same as 8/24. I didn't change the value, I just changed the numbers so that I could have a common denominator. For my second fraction, I went from 8 to 24. I multiplied the denominator by 3 to get to 24. So since I multiplied the denominator by 3, I have to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. So the numerator is now 9. So 3/8 is the same as 9/24. I didn't change the value at all. Now that I have the same denominator, I can add these fractions. So 8/24 plus 9/24 is just 17/24. Remember, you keep that common denominator that you just worked so hard to find, and you just add the numerators. So 17/24. And this can't not be reduced because 17 is prime. But if it could be reduced, I would need to reduce it before saying that's my final answer. Okay, number 4, find the sum in reduced form. And this time it's going to be a mixed number. So I have 5/6 plus 3/4. So again, I have to have a common denominator. So a common denominator for 6 and 4. I happen to know this one would be 12. You can make your lists of multiples here if you didn't know this one was going to be 12 and find that least common denominator. Okay, so for the first fraction, I changed the denominator from 6 to 12. I multiplied it by 2, so I also need to multiply the numerator by 2. So 5/6 became 10/12. Same fraction, it just looks a little different. For the second fraction, I changed from 4 to 12. I multiplied the denominator by 3, so I need to multiply the numerator by 3, so that's 9/12. So now that I have the common denominator, I can add these fractions. 10 twelfths plus 9 twelfths is 19 twelfths. And since 19 is bigger than 12, that means this fraction is greater than 1, and we can write it as a mixed number. So how many wholes were in this? How many 12s are in 19? Well, just one. There's one 12 in there. And how many would be left over? If we took out the 12, there would be 7 twelfths left. So 19 twelfths is the same as one whole and 7 twelfths. So that would be my final answer as a mixed number. Number 5, what is the total amount of cereal and nuts in this recipe? So cereal, there was 2.5 cups, and there was 3/4 cups of nuts. So I'm going to add 3/4. So basically this question is testing if you can add a mixed number and a fraction together. So you should have learned in this lesson how to take this mixed number back to an improper fraction so that we can add them. So 2.5. So you go 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So this is 5 halves is that fraction. You can also think about 2 wholes. How many halves is that? That's 4 halves, plus this 1 half is 5 halves. However you want to turn that back into an improper fraction. And I'm going to add that with 3/4. So when we're adding and subtracting fractions, we have to have a common denominator. So the common denominator for these ones is going to be 4. So 5 halves, if I wanted to write that as fourths, I multiplied the denominator by 2, so I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2, so that's 10 fourths. The second fraction was already fourths, so I don't need to change that one at all. So 10 fourths plus 3/4 is 13 fourths. And if they want it as a mixed number, I can figure that out. How many times does 4 go into 13? It goes in 3 times, which would be 12. So there'd be 1 left over. So 3 1/4. Okay, so if you feel good about these problems, go ahead and take your checkpoint right now. Remember, you can use this paper when you do your checkpoint. If you still need help, reach out to me and I can give you some more examples before you do your checkpoint.